not where we'd like him to be. You know, he's talking about Palestinian human rights, but he's not saying it's time to stop giving away $8 million a day to the Israeli army to conduct. The Saudis needing to be our proxy in Syria, that we should have the Saudis do the fighting. Well, you know, the reality is that the Saudis have been the problem and not the solution here. They are not going to be the solution. And fundamentally, what we're saying is that we need a foreign policy that's very simple, that's based on international law and human rights and diplomacy. Economic and military domination. Right now, our foreign policy is basically a marketing strategy for the weapons profiteers. We create enemies, as Hillary Clinton did many times, but as Secretary of State, among her many other achievements, she basically demonized Russia to create a new big enemy, so we can have some big weapon systems. Because you can't really justify a $1 trillion war budget against, ordinary terrorists hiding out in a cave. So we need big enemies. We need Russia and we need China. So we've been in the process of trying to demonize them. So we're calling for basically a whole new foreign policy based on international law and human rights. On nuclear weapons, yes, big problem. $1 trillion that Obama has basically set up a program to spend $1 trillion over the next 2 to 3 decades, creating a whole new generation of nuclear weapons and modes of delivery. Like, we need this? Really? What are you thinking? And the U.S., bear in mind here, it was the U.S. that dropped out of the nuclear disarmament process. It was the U.S. that pulled out of the anti-ballistic missile treaty, which was sort of the main foundation of that process of moving towards disarmament. So when we did that, so that we could build new missile defense systems and market them and surround Russia and now China with missiles, this is basically, it's creating another nuclear arms race, which is a very dangerous thing, especially when you have someone like Hillary Clinton saying that she will establish an air embargo over Syria, a no-fly zone, against a country which is nuclear armed, which is already very invested in Syria, and that is Russia. So this is basically nuclear brinksmanship. It's not just Donald Trump we need to worry about with nuclear weapons. It's Hillary Clinton. There are many levels to this issue. So on one hand, you have enabling legislation, like the Patriot Act, like the NDAA, like the legislation that creates these secret processes of spying on citizens and creating wholesale dragnet surveillance. So we need to repeal those provisions and ensure that we are defending our civil liberties. Creating a gigantic haystack of useless information has not proven to be a really good way to defend American security. If we want to defend American security, again, it's pretty simple. Let's stop bombing other countries. Election, Sherry Honkala, my running mate, and I were arrested for trying to walk in and observe a debate that we should have been participating in. Being on the ballot for 85% of voters, it's a right of voters not only to vote, but to know who your choices are and to hear from them. This is a voter's right to be educated about your choices. So some people will say, oh, great, you mean so we're going to have 100 people on the stage? That is just, that's ridiculous, because this is a rule that should be applied. If the candidate is ballot qualified on a majority of ballots and could actually get elected, then people have a right to hear them. If that logical, common sense rule was applied, there would have been between 4 and 6 candidates for the past many decades, which would have been a really good thing. So what I would say is, on our website, you can sign up to hear about debate action. We were arrested, I think, too late in the game to have made a difference. And we were taken to a dark site and handcuffed tightly to metal chairs for about 7 hours, surrounded by about 16 Secret Service and Homeland Security agents, because we were so dangerous, you know. Sharon Huckle and I looked so dangerous that we had to be tightly handcuffed and surrounded. Which goes to show how quaking in their boots they are. They are really scared that word should get out. They didn't want the press to know that there was another candidate there, because they don't want the public to know that there's another candidate out there. This time around, it's really interesting. We are currently running as high as 4% in the polls now. In the latest. Where about 20% of people have heard about the campaign. So 4% of 20%, if you scale that up, that's about 20% if everybody knew about us before they know very much. So that means we are beginning at what could be potentially 20%. So we're hoping we might simply get in with the current rule, which is that you have to be at 15%. It is possible. We've got 6 months to get there. This is where Bernie Sanders was 6 months ago. So hold on to your hat. We could get into the debates, but we are not leaving this to chance, which is why we are encouraging people to sign up to be part of the direct action campaign to open up the debates. So get ready for some action and join our list. And let's see what's left. About branching out, you know, to engage communities of color and working class communities. How do we bring them into the campaign? You know, we are an activist campaign, and we are a social movement campaign. And for myself and many people involved in the campaign, we don't just like run for office. You know, it's like the real work that we do is in the streets and building coalitions and building a broad movement. So working on the fight for 15 and the right to a union, in working on the Black Lives Matter campaign, and supporting the Frisco 5, in you know, being there at the immigrant detention centers and being on the border and actually connecting with the communities of struggle, so that they're not first hearing about us, you know, because we are running in an election, but rather because we're there. And it's by working with the ISO, you know, and similar groups who are really there leading the charge. That's, I think, you know, how we expand. And I will say the Green Party has different, you know, different parties in different states, but there are many states where the Green Party is very connected with the communities of color. In my home state, we call it the Green Rainbow Party, because the Rainbow Coalition, before Jesse Jackson took it into the Democratic Party, it was an independent political party, and that merged with the Green Party to have an agenda, you know, of ecological, you know, climate justice and social and economic and labor justice and racial justice. Same thing in Washington, D.C., where it's known as the D.C. Statehood Green Party. And the D.C. Statehood Party was, again, an African-American party for basically the rights of full citizenship, to actually have a stake and representation in Congress, and to have its own city council, and to have sovereignty and all the things that D.C. is denied. It's still sort of treated like a colony, a community of color in a colony. So we are very much working with those struggles on the ground. Okay, all right, and then very quickly to do about Saudi oil, because there is such a no-brainer solution here. The cheapest form of energy in the Middle East is solar.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's like, that transition should be happening. And when we talk about a Green New Deal for the U.S., You know, we also talk about our responsibility to, you know, be a humanitarian superpower, not a military superpower, and to help lead the way. If we were working with Russia and China, for example, to all of us demilitarize our economies, because all of our economies are really in bad shape right now. And we're all very threatened by the climate crisis, and we cannot afford to be wasting money on the military, which is mostly fighting battles to figure out how we're going to secure energy and routes of transportation. So how about we just forget the whole energy battle, let's all green our energy systems and make all the wars for oil obsolete.